All right. Welcome, everybody, to episode number 3 of the Greatest Muley Hunter podcast. Joining me today is my good buddy, Joe Switalski, out in Wisconsin. Hi, Joe.
Hi, Matt. How you doing today?
I'm good, buddy. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Doing well.
Miss you.
I missed you too, bud. It's been a long
Yeah,
time.
it's been way too long, but
Yeah.
this is a nice way of connecting. So I'm excited. I'm excited to talk about hunting and my dad and a little bit of fishing, even, which is
That's what
everybody
I'm
that
excited for.
knows that that's not a part of who I am at all. So when I was growing up, every time my dad would go fishing, I would always just bring my 22 along and just go shoot shit while everybody was fishing because I had no patience whatsoever for it. But my dad really always enjoyed fishing, and um, he took me along all the time, even though I did not enjoy it at all. But um, Joe is a very good bass fisherman, especially, but very good fisherman in Wisconsin, and was kind enough to take me and my dad out on the lake with him one day, and that was a pretty fun time.
That was a hell of a trip. That was a blast.
It it was great. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into that trip.
Well, I'm Joe Switalski. I'm from Wisconsin. It's probably know Matt. Um, I am a real estate agent now. I had wore many hats
Hmm.
because I need to at all times.
For
Uh,
sure, because he's bald.
very
That's what
bald.
that's about.
I'm a huge outdoorsman between fishing and hunting, and I had the opportunity. Is that 3 years, 4 years ago now?
Probably 4. Yeah.
4 years ago now. Take Matt and his dad out to a lake and go fishing in a boat. We had a good time. We didn't catch a ton of fish. We all caught fish though, and I got to see Matt with a rod in his hand, which made my day.
Yeah, Joe, like always. So we worked together for a long time at Home Depot, and we hung out a lot at Home Depot because of where our respective jobs kept us, and so we developed a very close friendship as a result of that. And Joe would always talk about fishing, and I would just be like, just shut up, Joe. I don't care at all about fishing. I know you love it. I get it. I don't know how you love it. I don't understand the mechanism that drives you loving fishing, but by all means, like you you do you. So so yeah, my dad had never caught a largemouth bass, and so when he came out to visit us, it was not long after my daughter was born, so she was pretty little, and my dad came out to visit, and so we went and met up with Joe and took us on his boat, and it was a fun trip. Like my dad caught 2 largemouth bass, and I caught one pretty nice one, and that
Yeah, I think you
was
caught the biggest one of the day.
yeah.
Yeah, it was a
Yeah,
cool time. And we got to
yeah,
hear your dad
yeah,
tell stories, which was awesome.
yeah. He had some stories, that's for sure. That is for sure. Yes, it's so amazing. Like the thing about my dad is like the way he was just so self-deprecating. Like it never occurred to him what an accomplishment it was, what he had accomplished in his hunting career until I started pointing it out to him. Like he just never even stopped to consider that what he had done with harvesting a buck every year for 64 consecutive years, what that what that accomplishment actually was.
Right. It's crazy.
It's
Just
so
it's
crazy.
astronomical to think about it.
Yeah.
Like I could start now and shoot a buck every year, and I guarantee I'm not gonna
No.
hit 64 years in a row. Like
No.
it's
Started
astronomical.
his first year when he was 12 years old. he was 76 when he killed the last one. Like that's crazy. That is so crazy. And to just every single year, and like I have uncles that hunted the exact same place, the exact same time periods, and they are not even close to that sort of thing. And like just the quality of bucks too, like just the unbelievable size of some of these deer. Like
Like the
he
one
would
behind
go
you?
into, yeah, exactly. So the story of that buck, so he and my mom and some friends from work, they were living in Colorado at the time, and they were going to go on a hunt. And they were going up into an area that none of them had ever hunted before. And in talking to some people about it, they were like, well, you'll probably see some deer, but the biggest buck you'll probably see is a little fork, right? And so, all right, that's fine. You know, we're mostly after meat anyway. Um, so my dad had told my mom that she had the first shot on the first buck that they would see, and that was like, you know, he wasn't expecting there to be anything of any size in the area. And this is a point of contention that is still pretty contentious with my mom. Like, so she still calls this her buck anyway. So they go and they set up camp, and they're in a pretty remote area because I mean it's like the like 1967 I believe is when they killed that deer, and um, so they set up camp. They got up early the next morning before daylight, and they start up this big ridge, and there's these big sagebrush flats out on this big ridge, and the the sun is just coming up over the top of the ridge, and all of a sudden they just see antlers like above the sagebrush, and this monster buck is just standing right there, like 200 yards away. And my dad just, he like didn't even think about it. He just threw the rifle up and shot it and dropped the deer. Like didn't even stop to think for a second, and then my mom just like smacked him, and you know they go over and see what it is, and it's this absolute monster of a deer. The deer's 34 inches wide, 8 points on one side, 9 points on the other, 6.5 inch bases, and scores like 215 Boone and Crockett. And that's the
Yeah.
biggest buck that anybody in the family has ever killed, extended family included. So everybody in the family has been trying to outdo this buck for forever, you know, 50 plus years. Like that was 51 years ago or 52 years ago that they killed that deer. And you know, so that's been hanging on the wall for my whole life and whatnot. And so the crazy thing was, one of the people that they were hunting with shot a buck later that week that was identical to this buck, just not quite as heavy.
Really?
Same exact cheater point, same exact frame, like everything, like literally just one size smaller of this deer.
That's
Same
pretty fucking
number of
cool.
points, everything. And this is an area where they were told they'd be lucky if they shot a 2 point.
Right. That's ridiculous. Like,
And that's what I'm talking about. Like that's the thing that he would always do. Like he'd always go into these areas that nobody ever said there was going to be anything, and just always managed to kill a big buck every damn year.
and the coolest part about talking and hearing your dad's stories is like, when he was younger and when you guys were younger, it was for necessity. He was hunting for the meat. He didn't care about the size of the deer. And then you hear the stories as he got older and you got older. It was all about what his kids got to do out there and the passing it down, and you could see the love that he passed down for, and that's like the greatest thing your dad's stories, because that's what he wanted to talk about was your guys' hunt, not his own.
Yeah,
He always talked about the
yeah.
hunts with you guys as kids, not his own hunts.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's yeah. He never. I mean, I had to force these stories out of him, and like there towards the end. I mean, I made it a point to try to record as many conversations as I could as we talked about hunting, and because I knew, you know, when he got diagnosed with the leukemia, like there's not going to be a whole lot of time here, so we gotta make the most of it. And I mean, even then, he was still in hunting camp and fighting and fighting and fighting, and never ever gave up and never complained. Never. I
No.
mean, just that. It's so crazy. Like,
Yeah, even the last time I saw him, he was excited for that upcoming hunting season. It was cool because he got to hunt. Excited for you to come out. He's excited for Jerome to come out there, and it
yep,
was just always cool. It was never about him. It was always
never.
about what his kids were out there doing now and everyone else. It was never about him. But
Yep.
yet he shot a buck for over 60 years in a row every year.
Yeah, yeah. And it was always like there were so many times. There were so many times where it was just like, oh shoot, I still have a tag to fill. And then he'd go out and shoot a big buck.
He told on a boat that they were fishing. He told a story where it was towards the last few years, like right after we had met, that he had forgot that he still had a tag, and it was the last day of the season. He walked out in the morning and shot a buck, like 10 minutes after shooting light.
Yeah,
Yeah, I just walked over
yeah,
and there was a deer. I shot it.
yeah. No big deal.
How? How?
And he'd always just be like, shot a pretty nice buck. Nice 4 point, nothing special, just a good buck. And then he'd send me pictures, and it's just a damn nice buck. And every single time he's just like, yeah, it's a pretty good deer, but
With his grimace.
nothing to get too. Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh. So we have in the Anderson family what's known as the Anderson grimace, and it really manifests itself when we try to take hunting pictures. And
Yes, it does.
so many times there are so many pictures of my dad with his trophy at the end of a hunt, and he's trying to smile, but it is not a smile at all. And it is such a terrible grimace, and everybody does it. Like all of the family does
Yep.
the same thing, and then so I for the last like 10 years, 15 years, I've been really on everybody to actually smile in your pictures and take good hunting pictures because they're so inept at taking good quality hunting pictures. Like they'll take a picture of you standing next to a deer hanging up from a hanger, like not at all, like just
Right.
pools of blood dripping down, and not at all what you want to see. And so like I made it a huge point to like like one year my dad shot this big buck, the big drop tine buck that I made my logo out of for my company. And he sent me a text message. He's like, I just shot a big buck. I'm like, all right, here's what you need to do. And I sent him this whole list of instructions on how to take a good hunting picture. I'm like, don't ruin this, Dad. Don't pull a U and take a shitty picture. Like, this is a huge deer. So and that was one of his best hunting pictures that he ever took. So, you know, that was good. That was
I
10
just don't.
years ago now that
Holy
he killed
crap.
that drop buck. Yeah,
I just don't smile in pictures.
I know. I always yell at you about it.
I ended up using one of those for my business for mailing out too. And the guy doing my pictures like, do you have any of you smiling? I go, I don't. He goes, why? I go,
Don't.
I don't know. I don't believe in it. So a little backstory: when I fish tournaments, every picture I take is serious looking, and I fish a lot of tournaments. So Matt always has to yell at me, "You should smile."
One time. Just try it. Just see how it feels. Don't you don't have to commit to it, but just try it. Just see how it goes.
That's kind of the. I'm not even sure I could do it without a fish in my hand.
And you can't.
No.
It's definitely used to be a spur of the moment thing.
Yeah.
But it's funny how bad people are at taking good hunting and fishing pictures.
Right.
It's really, and we're trying to promote the sport in the best possible light. So there's a fine line there with hunting pictures in general, and then you really have to be careful these days about how you present yourself and what sort of an image you're projecting, and so that's definitely a consideration that you really have to think about a lot more than you ever had to, thanks in part to social media, but in a big part to social media.
Huge part.
But yeah, I mean, digital pictures in and of themselves have really changed the whole game. So
yeah, big time.
Because I remember, when I was growing up, there are so many deer that I killed that were nice bucks, but we just don't have pictures of them because we didn't bring a camera with us. And who had extra money for film and processing? Not us. I mean, we barely had enough money to even go hunting. That's such a luxury item. But now, right. I mean, fortunately, we're reasonably well off, and everybody has a cell phone with a camera that's way better than any camera that any of us owned ever, and it's just right there in the palm of your hand. So you can with very minimal effort take some great pictures. Right. When I see people still taking shitty pictures, it's it's really, really frustrating, and I have to say something a lot of the time.
Yes, as you should. This year, hopefully, you get good pictures.
Yeah, I mean that's the goal.
Yeah, and I know you have Sean coming out there with you this year.
Yep,
he's all about the good staging.
Yeah, definitely. He was even critical of my my picture from 2 years ago with my biggest buck and kind of how it was, and it was really well done. It was probably my best hunting picture ever, and he was still like, "Well, you should have done." So it'll be interesting to see.
You should see the text I get from him when I post pictures.
I bet. No, I'm really excited, man. I've been trying to get Sean out to hunt with me for a lot of years, and it's finally came together this year, and we all drew tags. Excuse me. His buddy Tim, who went on a antelope hunt with him in Wyoming a few years ago, he's coming out too.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that'll be a good time.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. It's coming up here first week in November, and I'm damn ready is what it boils down to. So it's pretty cool. Next weekend I'm going to Spokane, and me and my sister Michelle are going to go sight in our rifles and get everything ready there, and because she got a brand new rifle and I had a lot of work done to my rifle, and I haven't shot it since I got all that work done. So I'm excited to get to the range and
put some lead down range. It's pretty cool.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Yeah, definitely. It's gonna be, and they're both really pretty rifles now. So
good.
Mine more so than hers even. But did I send you pics of hers?
No, you haven't.
So she got a Ruger American Predator rifle in 6.5 Creedmoor. And then we put a nice Vortex scope. Shout out to Vortex Optics, best optics on the planet,
hands
bar
down.
none. And so we put a nice Vortex scope on it, and then I had my camo dip guy do a nice teal camo, like a teal
cool.
base, and a nice tree camo pattern over the top, and it turned out really, really pretty. So
you need to send me pictures of that. That's
yeah,
awesome.
I'll do that for sure. Next week, I'm actually, well, when we go, her and I are gonna film an episode, so we'll show the guns and everything there too. So
That's cool.
in that
That's
episode
awesome.
we film, because my rifle is pretty damn spectacular, and
Yeah, I've seen your rifle. That's awesome
to talk about it. So, but yeah, no, it's been awesome. We almost got you out there this year too, but fell through at the last minute there. So we'll try again next year.
Yeah, little new career and that stuff is.
Yeah, life gets in the way.
Yeah, it fell through, and then the hunting gods kind of shined down on me, and I got a trip out to North Dakota to do a little duck hunting, which pretty excited about.
Yeah, and that's your first love, so
yeah, I love duck hunt. I'm excited. Excited to go. Teaching a guy how to blow a duck call is a little interesting.
Mm-hmm. Joe took me duck hunting twice.
I don't think you shot anything.
I shot at something the one time, though.
You did.
I didn't shoot at anything the first time.
No.
But in my defense, we both missed that wood duck. So.
Oh yeah.
And I think you missed spectacular. Him twice, so.
I missed him 3 times. I emptied the barrel out of him.
There you go. I at least had an excuse.
Yeah, no, it was bad. Yeah. If I hit them all, I'd be the greatest hunter ever. But I don't.
Yeah, and that's another part of it too. Like, you think about all the different deer that my dad killed over the years, and like there was a tremendous amount of luck that went into that as well. I mean, obviously a lot of skill, but so much luck too. And he was so adamant that he was just like, I would much rather be lucky than good 10 times out of 10 times. He would just chalk the whole thing up to him being lucky rather than, a percentage of luck, but a vast percentage.
You said that on a boat too.
Yeah.
He goes, I go, so how have you shot this many deer? He goes, luck. All right.
Yeah. Well, just like it's so ridiculous. Like, just all the different guns and terrible optics that we had. Like, I didn't own a pair of binoculars until I was in college. Like, at all. We just used our rifle scopes for binoculars. That was just what we did. Like, nobody had binoculars except like my one uncle who was pretty well off. He had a pair of binoculars. That was it. Like, nobody else had binoculars. Everybody used their rifle scopes as a binocular. Like, that's what you did. So, like, oh my gosh, we'd be out hunting and walking along, and I'm just, walking with my dad, and all of a sudden he'll stop and he's like, oh, right there. I'm looking, and I'm like, right where? You see that? Follow that tree line. And he's like a mile and a half away. There's a deer like way up there that he just sees with his naked eye. And I'm like, it's everything I can do with my scope to like see the thing that he's saying. And sure enough, there's a big buck standing there. Like, it's just unbelievable. Or we'd be driving. He always drove. So we'd be driving, going from one spot to another, and all of a sudden he'll just slam on the brakes and look up on this big ridge, that's a mile away, and here's a couple deer right up there. Like, as he's driving along, I'm like, are you serious? And sure enough, 9 times out of 10, there were deer where he said, just super randomly. Oh my gosh, it was so funny. Last fall, me and Reggie, we were we were hunting, and we got up on this big ridge, and we're looking out across this wide open country. I mean, it was right down the ridge from where I'd killed that really big buck a couple years ago, and that like it gets really rough the further up the ridge that you go. So we're down kind of in the low end of that country. It all spreads out, and it's pretty wide open. There's a huge prairie dog town out there, and so we're just looking at glassing all the draws and seeing if there's any deer. And all of a sudden, Reggie's like, "Oop, there's some deer." I'm like, "All right, where?" And we have good binoculars. We both have good vortex binoculars that, you know, work very, very well. And so he's trying to tell me, and I'm like, where in the hell are you looking? Like, I don't see anything. This is so crazy. And finally, I spot what he's looking at, and they were deer. I mean, they were damn sure deer, but they were 2.5 miles away. I was thinking like a mile away. Nope, 2.5 miles away. Like, and I had taken this giant like panoramic picture of this country, and so you can like start zooming in. I'm like, okay, so look at this picture. This is from where we were standing. So zoom in, zoom in, zoom in, zoom in, zoom in. I'm like, these 3 little dots right here, those are deer. And then you zoom back out, and people are like, how in the hell? I'm like, I don't know. I don't have any idea how Reggie spotted those 2.5 miles away. So ridiculous. Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
it was pretty awesome.
that's really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot in that, like all your hunting stories, even now, that go back to like it was what your dad instilled in you, and it's
Yeah.
what built friendships too.
Yep.
I mean, it's why
Sure.
we got along
Yeah,
because of
definitely.
hunting. I mean, hunting is what our main topic of conversation was. It was
Yeah.
hunting or fishing.
Boy, I thought you were such an asshole when we first started working together, and because you
Oh,
just walked around so fast, and you just like never talked to anybody, and you always had a shitty look on your face. And so I'm like,
I mean,
God, what the
it's
hell
got
is
to be
this guy's?
where I did work.
No, it's fine. I get it. If you talk to many of my former coworkers at Home Depot, they'll tell you that me calling someone else an asshole is the biggest episode of pot calling the kettle black that has ever existed. But in any case, so finally one day I was just like, dude, do you hunt? And then you stopped and just kind of like, yes. And then just immediately we clicked. But it was.
Oh yeah,
that's
and
that's pretty
that
much
became
how it
pretty much
started.
our morning or daily routine.
Yeah,
And the end there when I stopped really caring. Pretty much every hour of the day routine.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it was a dumb place, so I don't
Yeah,
feel bad about
but
wasting time.
it's what your dad. I mean, just going to what your dad, and it's a cool thing. I take like when I take my daughter fishing with me, and it's getting her out, and it's
Yep,
like my dad never hunted, so I didn't get to experience that with my dad. I got to
yep,
experience fishing with my grandpa a little bit, but more an uncle that taught me how to hunt. So getting to take my daughter out and go fishing with her is just the
yep,
coolest thing to be able to instill my passion. And she keeps asking when she could go duck hunting and when can she go sit in a duck blind and
yep,
no, probably this year. I think of getting her out this year on it. Now she's a little bit older and I know she can sit still a little bit.
yeah, for sure. She's 7 now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
crazy.
Yeah, I told my daughter is the same way. Like when I talk about hunting and stuff, she's just like, "When am I gonna be old enough to go hunting with you?" I'm like, "Well, you know, probably 8 or 9, depending on how things are going and where we're at or what's going on in life. But by 10 for sure." And so she's 4.5, and so um, but she's really interested in it, and we talk about hunting a lot, and the fact that I have this skull and antler mounting business. For those of you that don't know, I have a business called Classic Skull Mounts where I do some really awesome skull and antler art,
That one
including
behind you.
big giant buck on the wall behind me. Because that buck, he had been on a when I was in high school. My brother got that put on a shoulder mount for my dad. For a lot of years, it was just a skull cap mount on the wall because that's what we could afford. Nobody could afford actual taxidermy back then. Certainly not us. But um, so that the shoulder mount, it was really ratty. I mean, that was like 20 years ago that it got mounted, and it was in really bad shape. So I decided after my dad passed away, and I had decided before he passed away, and we had talked about it, and he was totally on board with it. That I was going to take it off of that shoulder mount and put it on just a plain white skull, and then I had this really awesome custom mount bracket from my buddy Scott over at Rack Bracket. Shout out to Scott. Uh, Make this custom inside corner mount so it comes out just straight out from the corner of the wall, which is awesome. And
It
it
looks
was a
great there too.
really cool idea. So now Scott has it as one of his main, or one of his products that he sells on his website. So you can go to rackbracket.com and order one of those for yourself too. And he does a great job. His brackets are really, really, really nice quality, and he's a really good guy to work with. So I've met a few really good people in the industry. Whew. Sorry, man.
That's all right.
It's
I,
late.
I know the feeling.
Yeah.
But
The
yeah,
problem is I have 2 little kids in my house, and in order to film this, it's very hard to do that when they're awake, and so
I'm aware.
and then I have to get up at 4:45 every morning to go to work Monday through Friday, so you know it's hard to stay up late.
I
But
I I have to get up when I feel like it tomorrow. I have a showing at noon.
uh-huh.
I have a
Uh-huh.
coach in the
Poor guy.
afternoon. Yeah, it's tough working for
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds really hard. Poor fella.
It can be. Like Friday, I'm coaching, and then I have to leave to go do showings until 9 o'clock at night. So I mean,
Sure.
there's days where it's long, but yeah, it makes it nice when
Yeah.
I can kind of start planning time now that I've established it. Yeah, and just getting back to your dad, like some of the things just how he done it and went about it was just the coolest way that he told the stories. So, as you said, self-deprecating. Like it was never about him. No, it's
Yeah.
just luck.
Yeah.
Or
Just pure luck.
change the
Nope.
story to something
Involved.
about you or your brother, your sisters, and their hunt
Yeah.
experience and crawling
Yeah.
over
Yep.
a ridge on your bellies to shoot a deer.
Yeah.
We would
Yeah.
tell a story of making your brother crawl like almost a mile on his stomach because they were over a flat. And I remember that story just because it was
Yeah.
like I'm not crawling a mile on my stomach.
Yeah. But if we get you out there, I'm gonna make you do that.
Oh, I'm sure you
So
will.
I mean, there won't even be a deer at the other end, but I'll just make you do it. That's
No,
fine.
you're
Sure,
just
Joe. Yeah, yeah. It's just right over there.
I see a
Just right
deer.
over
It's a
there.
speck out there. Just trust me.
Who knows how to spot deer out here, Joe? You or me? Probably me.
I'm calling Reggie.
Yeah, that's probably he'll be there. Don't worry. Don't worry. We all kind of hunt together, so And we've kind of found like the optimal hunting speed for this area is pretty much about 1 mile an hour. Damn it. Stupid.
I'd say take an energy drink, but you need to go to bed.
No, that will not be a good idea. Coffee is going to be good enough in the morning, but you know, no, he some of the stocks that we made over the years, like on antelope especially, there are some really memorable ones that were just like, one time there was no cover at all, like nothing at all for probably a half a mile, and we had to close the distance. We were like probably 3/4 of a mile away from this herd of antelope, and we had to go about over a half a mile just in plain sight. And so there happened to be a barbed wire fence headed exactly the direction that we needed to go. And so there were three of us. There was me, my dad, and my friend Chris. And so my dad was like, okay, we're going to go really slow. And we're going to go, like, I'll go to this post. And then I'll go to the next post. And the next person goes to the post I was at. And then the third one will go. And then we'll all just kind of go one post at a time. We'll stay right in line. And because we're headed right in a straight line, the way antelope's vision works is they have a hard time with the depth perception in the front. So this is, a loophole that you can kind of exploit sometimes. And so, sure shit, we we made it work. We got down into this hollow, and then we were able to sneak our way up to this little rise, and the antelope were still bedded there, and there was about 30-40 head in the herd, and a couple decent bucks. And me and Chris both had tags, and my dad had already filled his, I think, but me and Chris both had tags. And so got a nice solid rest there, about 250 yards. That was about as close as we could get, which that's point blank range for antelope. 250 yards, like, boy, if you can get 250 yards on an antelope, that's a good day's work. So got a good rest. The buck stands up, looking around. Boom! Missed him, just deader than shit. And the whole herd takes off, and me and Chris both just start shooting because we were really stupid. And the herd's just headed on their way around this ridge, and I stand up, and they're about 400 yards running as fast as they can go, and I just did one of these, and boom! Just that buck dropped.
So you missed a standing still shot?
Yeah, oh yeah, that's like par for the course for me. Like, boy, I can't hit the easy ones, but make it a little difficult, and yeah, definitely. So we get over there, and I hit that buck right where the neck connects the skull. Just pure luck. Shouldn't have even been shooting, but did, and got this really nice buck. He was about 13.5 inches, which for that country that's a good nice buck. So yeah, for sure. So, but like, who would have thought that pretending to be fence posts would get us a half a mile closer to a herd of 40 antelope? That's what he that's what he did. Like, one of my favorite techniques for hunting antelope, which he always talked about how curious antelope are, and that's like what you would always read in the magazines and stuff, and they are very, very curious animals, but not nearly the way they used to be. So, oh man, it's a real problem. In any case, So, so I've used this several times. It's never been executed to completion, but it should have been. If people had been where they were supposed to be, and or people could hit what they were shooting at, it would have worked perfect, right? So what happens is there are these areas where the private land butts up to the national forest land, and it's kind of a like it's a like these weird corners of land cut into areas, and it's kind of a just it's a tough place to hunt because of how it's set up. And so a lot of times the antelope will go onto the private land and feed in the hay fields, and because obviously the food is going to be better in the hay fields than it is just on the sagebrush flats for whatever reason. So
Right.
um, so so there's this thing that we do sometimes. I've tried this twice and it's worked. It should have worked perfectly both times, but um, so like we had to walk way out of our way to get around to the back side of the private land while still being on national forest. And then so I told Reggie and his sister to go and set up right at this one particular spot because that's where I thought the herd was going to go to as we spooked them. And so me and Jerome, neither he and I had an antelope tag at the time, so we were just kind of bird dogging for them. Um, Reggie and Elizabeth both had antelope tags and would have been able to shoot either a buck or a doe. I think they had both tags. Both of them had both tags, so they should have been able to kill some antelope regardless. So we did this big, like way out of the way hike over this big ridge and all the way around, and then we got to this far corner, and we were like right behind the antelope in comparison to where Reggie and Elizabeth were. And so I I said to Jerome, I'm like, okay, now we're gonna just start screaming and wave our arms and run as fast as we can at the herd of antelope. And he looks at me, and I don't think he really understood quite what I was saying. But I had already like started screaming and waving and running as fast as I could, which is not very fast, but still, covering some ground. And so this herd of antelope is just like, what the hell is happening? What is this behemoth running towards me? And so they herd up really close, and then they all just kind of like, shit, we need to go. And they just head right towards where Reggie and Elizabeth are supposed to be. And they did not go to where I told them to be. And that herd of antelope ran within 50 feet of where I told Reggie and Elizabeth to sit up. The whole herd just streamed right across onto the forest exactly the way it should have happened. And that's like, it's one of those like, that's an advanced antelope hunting technique that they don't teach you in school. So
I don't think you're reading about that one in a magazine either.
no, you're not. That's one of those that like, did we do that? Why did we do that? Well, it should have worked. It should have worked. That's the thing about that. But there's so many times when you're hunting antelope where you come up with a plan and boy, it just does not work at all. You get over there and there are no antelope anywhere to be seen, and it's a real thing.
Welcome to hunting in general.
I mean, yeah, you're definitely right there. But it's so with antelope, it's a little bit different because they're so conspicuous. You see just a whole bunch of white dots out on the prairie. Like, oh, well, this shouldn't be difficult at all. Well, as it turns out, they can cover a hell of a lot of country real fast.
Yeah, they're They're not slow by
No,
any means.
they're actually the second fastest land animal, which is real fast.
Yeah.
So keep in mind that my dad started hunting and went to high school in the 50s, right? So him and a couple of his brothers and my mom's brother Tom, my dad and my uncle Tom were always really close, and um, that's kind of how my parents met, was because my dad and Tom were friends, and so they somebody had an old pickup. I don't, it was it was the 1950s, so it was I don't even know what it was. I think I have it written down somewhere, but I don't have it with me. So this just kind of sparked my thinking. So they were out bombing around, and back then, antelope, like, you would buy a deer tag, and they would give you 2 antelope tags for free with your deer tag.
Damn, that's
Like,
the days.
you'd pay $2 for your deer tag, and they'd give you 2 free antelope tags with it, right? Because that's what the population levels were, and nobody was interested in hunting antelope because the meat tastes bad. Well, antelope is some of the best eating you're ever going to come across. Like, it's
I've had
so
it. It's
so
amazing.
so good. But it's how you prepare it, and
Hmm.
how you take care of the meat. Turns out that's important. That's an important thing
Yeah.
in terms of how your food tastes. How you take care of it is important. So they were out and they were hunting sharp-tailed grouse, and it was antelope season, but none of them were really, like, nobody had a rifle even, and they spot this lone antelope buck just out on this big flat, and so somebody got the idea that they were just gonna drive as fast as they could go and see if they could chase down this antelope. All they had were shotguns, right? So my dad's in the back of this pickup, holding on as they're bombing across this big flat, and it's flat, but it's not flat. Like,
Right.
the country, there's a lot of roll and holes and rocks, and sagebrush is not really super fun to drive over if you ever have had an experience with that. So, but they're bombing out across this flat, going flat out, and that buck is going as hard as he can go, and they're pushing 55 miles an hour across this big flat, and my dad and somebody else are in the back, and my dad just kind of leans over the side of the pickup, and he had the 12 gauge in his hand with one hand, and he's holding on with the other, and they got up right next to that antelope, and he just touched it off and just killed that antelope buck, and that was that. So
That's a different time of
it
hunting.
was different. It was a different time. Let's say that for
But
sure. Like,
you have hunting pictures. I mean, your dad hunted before camo. He went out in flannel.
oh, for
I mean, you
sure.
got a picture. I think it's red flannel. That's the one picture
Yeah,
you have of
yeah.
him.
That was, everybody did that.
Yeah,
Jeans and flannel. That's what you hunt in.
and not even
Nobody
good
had
boots.
nobody had camo until Walmart started selling camo. Who could afford camo? Nobody could afford camo. Oh my god. If you could afford camo, you were so pretentious that, like, nobody wanted to hunt around you,
And
basically, is
even
how.
look at the boots they wore then compared to like the hiking boots now.
Gosh, yeah. I remember. I mean, I would get, like, you'd have 3 or 4 pairs of socks in a pickup just because nothing was waterproof, no matter how much waterproofing you tried to do. I mean,
Plastic bags over your socks.
yeah. I mean, and even that, like, that the sagebrush and walking through all that rough country, all the cactus and everything, like, just poke right through whatever, and pretty quick, you get a little bit of moisture on that grass, like a nice heavy frost in the morning. Your whole pants are gonna be wet, just soaked from the knee down at least, and you don't have boots that are waterproof. And man, when Gore-Tex came out, like I remember like what a game changer that was for like just boot technology. Like boot technology has gone just so far in such a short amount of time. It's crazy. I mean, hunting gear in general has just exploded, but
Footwear.
like nobody ever had anything more than Walmart camo, and whatever. It's more you use the terrain, the deer are still gonna see you in that camo. That's
right.
You're wearing orange.
Right.
Like, it's not like we're bow hunting here, and it's not like we're standing still or sitting in a tree. I mean, we're hiking miles and miles a day, but I mean, legitimately, most of my hunting career, I was in jeans and flannel, and same with every member of my family. Like, you got a heavy winter coat that you put over it if it's really bad. And some years, man, it was really bad. But I have this black Carhartt coat that I got when I was a senior in high school, and that thing is the warmest. I mean, I went to college in northern Wisconsin on Lake Superior, where it gets real damn cold and is winter for a real long time of the year. And then I grew up in Montana. Yep, gets cold there too, as it turns out. I've never been cold in that coat. Like, not one time have I ever been cold in that coat, and it has held up so good that you could like pull it out of my closet right now, and you would think it's maybe 2 years old, and that's like way too old. It's like 20 years old.
Holy shit. Oh, well, forgot my chairs. Looks like you go backwards further.
Yeah, no, it's 20 years old this year. And
it says we're getting old, Matt.
I know. Turns out that's how it works.
But then you go, I was looking at new camo. I was looking at some of the new waterfowl stuff out.
Yeah.
I'm like, holy shit. First off, the prices are ridiculous.
Oh my god, it's so ridiculous.
Secondly, but they're like second off, they fully waterproof jackets. But I look at the price, I'm like, I'm going to use my same camo jacket I've been using since I was 16.
Yeah.
I've had that camo coat since I was 16, and I'm going to still use it.
Yeah. Like $400 for one pair of pants? Really?
Yeah, the jacket I was looking at was $580 just for the jacket. I'm like, nah, I'm good. I don't need to spend that kind of money.
Oh. No. Like, all the customization I had on my rifle cost like $500. It's gonna last forever. Like,
yeah. My camo coat's perfect. I might have a couple burns from putting it on the heater when I've been ice fishing once or twice, but you know what? I like it.
Oh yeah. Joe tried to take me ice fishing a couple of times too, and I'll be happy to tell you that we caught precisely 0 fish either time, and that was the first time, pretty much the only time ever in Joe's career that he didn't at least catch something, and 2 times we caught nothing.
It's very rare I don't catch fish. That was my concern taking you out on a boat with your dad. Was like,
I
Matt's on a
know.
boat. Last time I
I
took
know.
Matt out, we didn't catch anything.
At
Thankfully, your
least my
dad caught
dad
a
was
fish.
lucky.
It
Yeah.
was like his second cast that he caught a fish. I'm like, thank God.
Yeah. Yeah. I was very, very happy that he caught that fish. That was cool. Man, it's so crazy. What a cool dude.
Yeah, it was a lot
So
of
so
fun.
blessed. So blessed to have grown up with him as my teacher, and it's really really awesome to be able to teach these same things to my kids and new people. And like when I get you out to Montana, I can't wait. I can't wait to get you out to
I
Montana
know
and
it's
show
gonna be
you,
exciting.
you know, show you what that's like, because it's a whole different thing. I mean, me and Jerome talked about it in the last podcast, but
Yeah.
it's a vastly different experience. You've killed a lot of deer. You've killed, you know,
Mhm.
some decent bucks, and but you've never done anything like that, and that's a whole other thing. So
Now you get to teach some
hope,
Missouri boys it.
yeah, yeah, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be
It'll
really
be a good
fun.
trip.
Yeah, yeah. I told Sean he has to do a lot of cooking while we're there, because I see all these pictures, and I'm gonna need you to prove it, I guess. So
I will go on record after hunting with Sean a few times. He's a better cook than the pictures show.
that's
He is,
crazy.
it's amazing how good of a cook he is and what
That's
he can
awesome.
do with very
Yeah,
little.
yeah, that's cool.
So
Yeah, I think they're pulling a camper out, and then we have a canvas wall tent we'll be staying in, and with a little wood stove, and that's awesome. I can't wait.
yeah, you're gonna eat well.
Yeah, that's good. I like to eat. I don't know if you knew that about me or not, but
I would never have guessed that.
uh, good, good.
Not at all.
Yep. No, it's cool. It's cool. I'm glad you were able to get my dad some fish, and
Yeah, I'm
yep,
glad I got to meet your dad and talk to
yep.
him a few different times.
Well, we did Deer Fest that one year, and he was
Yeah,
able to come for that, and that was really cool having him out there in the booth. And because the whole reason that I started Classic Skull Mounts is because growing up, my dad had all these giant racks just laying around. I mean, nothing, like we didn't have money to do anything, so that was never something that we were able to do. And so I was like, man, there's got to be a way where I can take some of these big deer and put them on the wall. And that was literally the entire inspiration for starting my company. And I've mounted hundreds of deer and elk and antelope, and um,
they look
all
great.
crazy stuff over the years. And it all started because of me wanting to shine a light on what my dad had done, because I, more than anybody else, really understood what this was, what his accomplishment was, and why he was the greatest muley hunter of all time. Like, I don't care. You can put his record up against anybody ever, and with the limited resources that he had, and the with just his innate will to do it, what he was able to accomplish every damn year is such an unprecedented feat. And there are people that have killed a lot more deer, and there are people that killed bigger deer, and blah 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 blah. But he killed a buck every single year for 64 consecutive years with nothing. with nothing. He did it with nothing.
And
It's 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 so crazy.
and the mounts are just his legacy that gets part of the legacy it gets to live on. It's a little bit
Yep.
of that story. And
Yep.
each one of those deer has a story. And when you start
Exactly.
asking about the different deer, that was the cool part. Like at Deer Fest talking, like he remembered when he shot that deer, where he
Yeah.
was. He
Yeah.
could tell you about the hunt of that deer. And that's 64 years of deer hunting. I don't
Yeah.
remember what I had for breakfast this morning,
No,
but he
no.
had that.
That's
Each moment is part of his legacy living on.
Yep. And that was a really cool thing. So I did a hunting expo in Wisconsin called Deer Fest for 2 years, and most of the mounts that I had in the booth were deer that he had killed over the years, and there were some really big whitetails and some really big antelope and some really big muleys, and that big drop tine buck is 30 inches wide, 7 points on each side, 10-inch drop tine on the one side, and I mean just an absolute monster of a deer, and that was one of them. And then there's a giant 6x6 that scores over 200. That that just that the one that fell on your head.
Oh, I'm aware. Thank you, Timbo, for giving you a shout out in
Yep,
this one.
yep.
You watch
Shout
this,
out to
Timbo.
T-Bone.
Yeah.
um, yeah, and that's what it is. Like each hunt is special. Every single one is special, and even when you've had that many, just seeing that sparkle in his eye, like that little twinkle when you talk about these hunts, and be able to bring back those memories, and it was so cool.
He had that way of bringing the hunt to perspective. Well, all the whole time it was luck.
Yeah, of course, just nothing but luck.
And he always followed up one of his stories with of a deer. If I pick out any deer, ask him about it, he would follow it up with how it happened, tell you about it, but then he would talk about one of the hunts that he took one of you guys on right after. So he never
Yep,
wanted it to be about him.
yep, yeah. Oh, it's cool, and that's how I look at with all the different options that I have available right now for different trophies and stuff. Like there are so many ways that I can make every single mount unique so that it's easy for you to bring back those memories of the hunt. And that's we're encapsulating memories more than we're showing off to our friends. We want to be able to remember the feeling that it was when we took this deer, and we want to be able to remember the emotion, the high, the low. I mean, because you take a life, and when you take a life, there's good and bad things that happen with that. And the meat is the most important thing. The trophy is always secondary, but at the same time, you respect the trophy, you respect the deer, you want it to die as quickly as it possibly can in the most humane manner possible. And that's why we have such high quality firearms and optics, and everything is to make it so that the deer suffers the least amount. And so with the mount that you get with your trophy, you are encapsulating all the emotion that you felt in that hunt, the excitement, the exhilaration. Like when you put a stock on a big deer and you're able to seal the deal, like there is nothing like that feeling. Like that is, they are way, way, way harder to hunt. A big mule deer is one of the hardest animals to hunt. I don't care what anybody says. Like you can go out and shoot a little mule deer buck any day of the week. Like that's not a challenge at all. But a big mature muley buck, they are one of the hardest animals to hunt, and they know every dang trick in the book, and especially these public land muleys because they've been hunted their whole lives, and there's a lot of pressure, and so if you can seal the deal on a buck like that in a place like that, there's no better feeling in the world. So, like 2 years ago when I killed that big one, boy, that was like it still it still makes my heart race when I think about what an awesome thing that was. And like I remember, like I still have the text messages in my phone that I sent to my dad. Like my dad passed away almost 2 years ago, and I haven't deleted the text messages from my phone because I want to be able to look back on them every once in a while and just remember all the different times that we had, and I would always find pictures of big bucks online and send them to him, and he'd always make, self-deprecating comments, and like one of them was this gigantic buck next to a doe, and he's like, "Ooh, the one on the right is definitely my size, and it's the doe, of course, and just like things like that." But boy, he loved hunting mule deer more than anything, and he loved teaching people how to hunt mule deer more than anything, and it's definitely a passion of mine. Like we have some really big elk where we go hunting, and tags are very hard to come by, and when people draw tags, it's a big deal. But I don't have any interest in that. I don't have any interest of hunting elk at the expense of hunting muleys, like because they generally don't live in close proximity. I mean, you can run across elk where you find muleys too, but a lot of the time when elk move into a country, the mule deer kind of move out because the elk are assholes.
Hmm.
So, but people get really crazy about elk just because you get so much meat from an elk compared to a deer, and so much meat from a deer compared to an antelope, and it all kind of like it's a cascade effect.
Hmm.
People hunt antelope, but only because you can hunt it 2 weeks earlier than you can hunt deer. So hunting season starts a little earlier than than it would
Right.
if you didn't have a tag, kind of a thing. But I mean, I love antelope hunting, and I love mule deer hunting, and I do want to kill a big elk someday, but I will never sacrifice my muley hunt where we go with the people that we hunt with at the expense of hunting elk, because that's just not what it's about. That's not what it's about for me. I love mule deer way more than I love elk. So,
And
and
that's
that's
what your
that,
legacy.
that's my dad. I mean,
Yeah.
that's my dad. Like he drew the bull elk tag two times, two times in probably 15 years, and that was a lot. And he killed two little bulls both times. He just filled his tag. I mean, he hunted, but the elk in that country are not like elk in a lot of the West in how they. It's really hard to pattern them, and so they don't just work the same way. And a lot of times, if they get pressure, they just move out of the country, and that's it. You're never going to see them there again for years, and even so, it's hard to, especially when he was getting up in years. It was hard for him to spend the time that it took to get the elk, and even him having that tag, it made him kind of crazy. Like you have this elk tag, and that just kind of changes things, and I don't like the way it changes people. So I personally have no intention of ever hunting elk where we go hunting. I mean, I will eventually at some point hunt elk somewhere, but it probably won't be there, and it probably won't be during that week. So it's too important to me. being there with family and hunting and just
That was your
being.
dad's not one thing. What you said there, family. Family
Yeah.
was the hunt was about family, whether it was
Yep.
to feed them, to teach them,
Yep.
or to enjoy it with them. Your dad was always about family.
Yep. Yep. That carries over. It's everything. And like guys like Jerome and Reggie, they're family now. Your family.
Yeah.
That's you've transcended friendship and it's at a whole other thing now. So I need to get you out here. So you need to save your money, Joe. I need you to come hunting with me next fall. Okay?
Okay. Okay. Yeah. First week of November.
Yep. So we need to apply by March 1st. So
When does it
plan
open?
on that. February, I think. January, end of January, February.
Okay.
We have until like March 15th, but I always say March 1st just so
You're
we
safe.
cover our base. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So let's plan on it.
Deal.
Thank you so much, Joe. It's
It
been a
was a
really, really
blast.
good talking to you, and we'll do this. We'll do this again soon. So
Awesome.
probably have you on every month or so, and we'll kind of just keep going with this thing and see where it takes us. So
I
thanks
like it.
everybody for tuning in, and hope you enjoyed it. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.